So, here we are. For reals this time.
All right, here we go.
My name is Jeremy Pugmire, and this is Zach Stapel, my co-host. Introduce yourself, Zach.
All right, well, as Jeremy said, my name is Zach Stapel from the awesome town of West Jordan, Utah. And I moved up here recently about 3 months ago to the land of Box Elder County.
Box Elder County, the Holy Land. And my name is Jeremy Pugmire. I'm originally from the Cache Valley area, specifically Nibley. Raised there my whole life. And then when I got married, I moved over to Brigham City, where my wife's from, and here we are.
Here we are.
Okay, Zach. Why did you get into riding motorcycles?
So I got into riding motorcycles because of my family. My family's all been into motorcycles as early as my great-great-grandpa. And it's just been passed down through generation and generation. And mainly my aunts and uncles recently who have motorcycles, and they're huge into it. And as well as Jeremy, as we met a couple years back, he has that same interest in motorcycles that I do. And it's just, meeting him just reignited that fire of, just wanting to ride and, really have wind therapy. That's what I like to call it, wind therapy.
There you go. Man, I think that's got to be the biggest example of addictions coming through your genes,
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I feel like anybody that rides motorcycles like, oh, well, I had a family member.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that just happened.
No.
Not usually. But there's always first-time addicts.
Yeah, that's true.
So my experience in motorcycling started around, I'd say 7 or 8, riding dirt bikes with my great uncle on my mom's side. He had every sized motorcycle you could possibly imagine, dirt bike wise. Not a road guy, my uncle Robert. But starting out on the 50cc Honda, super young. I still remember the first time I rode. No idea what I'm doing. I don't even know if I think there was a clutch. Maybe. But it got off, totally dragged me across the ground. And it was super muddy, filled my sister and my brother out on other dirt bikes, just having a grand old time. And my Uncle Robert, I don't know, maybe he was in his 60s at that time. Yeah, late 50s, early 60s. Just chasing after me, getting
dragged across the ground.
Getting pulled through the mud on this stupid little dirt bike. But that's how the original flame was lit. And then I think the big thing that got me into street motorcycles was on my dad's side. He has a cousin. He has a few cousins that would show up to our family reunions every year on their Harley Davidsons. And I always thought that was so cool. Just freedom, to its roots.
Yep.
And so I think that's kind of what attracted me to the road. And then another thing that helped me kind of get my toes wet was I had some friends that had a bunch of Suzuki Dual Sports, DR650s, and then I think the dad had a Yamaha larger engine. I can't remember what model it was. But they were so open to me coming over and just using them whenever I wanted. And I look back at that and I think that's not super common.
No, not at all.
They're like, yeah, friend of my kid, take our multi-$1,000 motorcycle wherever you feel.
Yeah.
Learn how to ride it. Go for it, you know? And that's the motorcycle I took my license test with. And, but yeah, so that's how that kind of started. What was your first motorcycle, Zach?
So my first motorcycle is the one that I own right now, and it's my 2010 Harley Ultra Classic. But before that, I mean, obviously we rode, 250 dirt bikes and, tote goats here and there. But the first one that I've actually owned is the one that I currently own.
Okay, and what attracted you to the Harley Davidson?
Well, the Harley's run in my family for the longest time. I mean, we've always been Harley through and through. And I mean, there's just something about, a Harley Davidson in the name as you just see it going down the road. And I mean, I just had to stick with it and stick with the family name. And that's what I went with.
They're so iconic.
Oh yeah.
You can't help but notice.
Nope.
When they're coming down the road, my wife will laugh at me because I'll see something coming down the road and I'll be like, oh, that's the Harley Davidson Road Glide. That one's at 2013. That paint job only came out that year. And she's like, how do you, like, it was on the road passing us and we're
At
both
80
going
miles
80
per hour.
miles an hour. And you were able to glean that from that? Yeah. I'm obsessed.
Yep.
A little bit.
Got a big addiction.
Do I have a problem? Maybe I do. But it could be worse.
It's the first step of the 12-step process right there.
Admittance.
I have an issue.
I have an issue. I thought it was denial first.
Well, maybe it is.
I don't have a problem. Okay, maybe I have a problem. But yeah, so I think because I started like road riding on dual sports, I kind of had this opinion of a lot of other bikes. I was also very young, and being young people, you're very opinionated.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're trying to feel your way in the world. But at first I thought, oh, Harley Davidsons are the worst because you're a metric bike rider and it's the only way to go. And then also, well, funny enough, when I say that, it was like I only wanted to ride a cruiser or a dual sport.
Mm-hmm.
Sports bikes, I thought, man, if I ride something like that, I'm just going to get myself killed. And that's the only reason that you buy a sports bike is to get killed. But funny enough, the first bike I ever owned myself is a sports bike. My first bike was a Yamaha 2016 FZ09. My brother at the time had my brother had a 2018, I believe, MT09. So roughly the same model. I think there's some thing about one's the Japanese version. I don't know. There was some weird thing about it, but there a lot of them look really close.
Mm.
But his was the new body style. Mine was the older body style. I bought it off my wife's neighbor when we were dating because he was selling it for a screaming deal. And I just had to have a bike. And so I bought that, decided that having the ability to go really fast was not good for me.
As for most.
I will not say things that I've done on that bike for fear of incriminating myself. But anyways, decided I wanted more 2-up riding. I'm 6'4". Zach, how tall are you?
6'6".
We're both big guys, and even though the hyper naked bikes that Yamaha makes are more sit up straight than the full on hyper sport bikes, it's still like hour in, my back's killing me, my legs are all cramped up, my wrists are locking, and so sold the Yamaha, bought a 2015 Honda Fury. Before I get into that, I think I have this serious issue where I hate something and then eventually fall in love with it. First with thinking sport bikes are stupid and then buying one. And then when the Honda Fury first came out, which blows my mind that it's been going on this long, practically unchanged for almost 14 years.
Yeah.
Because I think it came out in 2010.
Yeah.
And when I saw it in 2010, I said to myself, that has got to be the stupidest looking motorcycle I've ever seen. But I went to a Honda dealer just to look at motorcycles and saw one there, and I sat on it. I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of comfortable. And then they asked me if I wanted to test drive, and I said, why not? Actually really enjoyed it. Next thing I know, I sold my Yamaha for a Honda Fury.
And it's sitting in your driveway.
Yeah, there it is. But really enjoyed it. Sounded amazing. Only problem was it wasn't super great for 2-up riding, which is what I wanted to do with my wife. So, segue into the next bike I bought. I had made a new friend. His name's Gary. Hopefully be on the podcast soon. Zach's met him. And he had his work laptop out at work. He worked for a fire alarm company, and I was an electrician at the time. And just covered in motorcycle pictures. I'm like, hey, do you ride? He's like, yeah, I do. Do you? And I said, yeah. Want to go out tonight? And he's, why not? And there we are, eating dinner with our wives. That night, I called my wife and I said, hey, we're going to go have dinner with somebody from work. And she says, oh, okay. Who is it? I'm like, he's this guy named Gary. I met him today. We're going with his wife. You know? And so because of that, in Gary's phone, my contact is Jeremy Fury. It still is. And then eventually we worked together, and every time he'd give someone my number, they'd be like, Jeremy, why is your name Fury in his phone? I'm like, oh, it's because it's the motorcycle I used to ride. Anyways, long story short, I decided that I had drank the metric Kool-Aid a little too hard, and that crapping on Harleys was not as cool as I thought it was, because all of a sudden I just needed a Harley.
So, after all those years of hating them,
yeah,
you finally tasted of the glory.
Well, it's so funny because when Zach and I first became friends, I was like, do you want a Harley? What are you talking about, dude? This is the worst. And the next thing I know, I have one. And he calls me up. He's like, you friggin' hypocrite.
You told me forever that you hated these things and you'd never buy one. And here you are, and you have it in your driveway.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure we'll get into it later, but there's a funny story that goes along with it, but I want to save that for another episode. But so that's kind of my history of motorcycles and what ones I've owned, kind of where we're coming from as motorcyclists. And now I think on the road, let's see.
Well, first, before we move on, explain what you have now.
That's still what I have.
Yeah, but you didn't explain the year, make, model.
Oh, geez, you're right. So I have a 2012 Harley Davidson Ultra Limited. It's red. I know they got special names, and I how do I not know I know the dark. There's like a purpley maroon, not maroon, but yeah, we'll call it maroon.
Yeah,
they call it Merlot Sun Glow. I think I remember it. The top one is Ember Red Sun Glow because it's a two-tone. What color is yours? Do you know the?
I don't know the specific names, but mine's blue and silver.
Blue and silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that knows Harleys will know which ones we have.
No
like,
kidding.
oh, I know that year and that model, and I know they came out with 6 colors that year, and I know those. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
They'll be able to pull up the Google photos.
Yeah. So, not brand new bikes, but they're new to us. They serve their purpose.
Yep.
We, of course, have ambitions of having newer motorcycles, but until then, these are what we ride. What was I trying to say before, though?
I don't know.
I totally lost it. Must have been a lie.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, so that's kind of where we're coming from. Those are the bikes we've ridden, what kind of history we have behind. That's what it was. I got my license in 2015, and then I took a 2-year hiatus for our mission, and then I've pretty much been on a bike ever since, because when I got back, I was riding my brother's bike, and I've told Zach this story, but my brother was super not supportive of me getting my motorcycle license because my dad works at the ER, and my dad's super disapproved, and my dad told me that as long as I lived in his house, I wouldn't ride a motorcycle. And so I went and got my license anyways. To say the least, he was very displeased with me. And my brother was agreeing with him. And then when I got home, and my brother lived at home and had a motorcycle, I was like, dude, what the freak? You were totally after me when...
And you have your own.
Yeah. So, yeah, another fun story. But, yeah, so from basically 2018 on, I've been, if not on my own motorcycle, on other people's.
Yeah.
Like I rode my brother's dual sport 250 Honda until he bought his Yamaha, and he'd let me borrow the Yamaha to go certain places. So yeah, I mean, not a super long time, but long enough to know kind of what's going on and to know that I love it. So,
Yeah, for sure.
what is your longest ride?
Well, I honestly haven't rode very far, but I mean, I would probably say the longest one that we've done so far would be, we started in Salt Lake, rode up, or I guess we rode down into American Fork Canyon, rode up there into Heber, and then we dropped down from there. We kept going, and we rode out to, what's the place called? All I can remember is the city that we stopped in was Hannah, because Seth, my cousin, was riding with me at the time, and he ran out of gas and had to push his bike to the gas station.
Oh man.
And
This is a Softail?
he rides
Heritage?
a 2015 Heritage Softail.
That's right. But he's got the fairing on it.
Yeah, he's got a fairing on the front.
We'll have to have him on eventually.
Yeah, we'll have to get him
when we
on
have more
here.
mics and we can have more people.
For sure. Yeah, he would love it.
Yeah, I think my longest ride is probably with you, but only because I had to drive to you first.
Yeah, probably.
Because you were still living in West Jordan at the time. And so Ellie and I hopped on and rode from Brigham City to West Jordan before we even started the ride. So like an hour and 15 before the ride even started. And then we rode out to, what's that?
Copperton?
Copperton, not Coppersmith. Copperton. And then we came back and ate at Super Chicks, which is in
Harriman,
and then back to West Jordan, and then back to Brigham.
And back home, yeah.
So I think that's my longest trip, but I'm hoping that this year, especially us as a group, the four of us, our wives and us, we can get some longer rides out. There's one that Zach and I have been trying to figure out, and hopefully have Gary and his wife and Seth and his wife go up north from Brigham City through Honeyville, through Deweyville, over into Cache Valley, up into Preston, Idaho, cut across to the north end of Bear Lake over in Montpelier, Liberty and Montpelier, make a loop around the lake, stay over there, and then head way back. I think that's like a 5-hour trip all in all.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I would, definitely.
We just got to find the time. And the weather needs to agree with us.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the hardest part about being a motorcycle rider in Utah, based in Utah.
Weather's always changing.
Weather's the thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've had some good days, but next week's supposed to look nice.
Yeah. That'll be the first time that we can really hit the roads.
I need new tires bad.
Yeah, this man had come over to my house the other day and was like, "Hey, could you check the dates on these for me?" Like, dude,
we were also taking those ugly logos off the back of my bags.
That's true.
But we were like, might as well check the tires. All right.
Tires are over 7 years old.
Well, I think the one had been replaced, and then the other one hadn't been touched since it left the factory. So I looked at it the other day, and I'm like, oh, crap, there's a big old crack down it. I'm like, I probably shouldn't ride this thing.
Yeah, definitely not. Let's get that fixed.
I'm trying to get those done so I can ride it to work at least. But yeah, that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The podcast, though, I think it's going to evolve. We're still trying to find our footing. But things I want to cover are, I know that a lot of people come to Utah just to ride. Like, we've got scenery, we've got places to visit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I want to hit as many of those things as we can, talk about those things, make videos, podcasts, talk with people that are in the community, especially in the motorcycling community here in Utah, because even though our season is sometimes very short, I think we have a lot of diehards.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a couple of people we have in mind. For example, I'm trying to coordinate with a mechanic at the Saddleback Harley Davidson, who's a friend of my brother-in-law, and see if we can have him on, talk about common questions that people ask in getting bikes fixed, upgrades, the works. And then a couple of the other ones that I'm interested in talking to is we have a local motorcycle shop called Tucker Speed. Shout out to them. I actually bought the audio mixer for this podcast from them.
There you
go. And hopefully we can get this room a little more set up and a little more professional so that they're like, they don't just laugh at us when they come on, if we can convince them to come on. But there's that. Anything that you have thought you'd like to talk about or things you want to cover?
Probably just for me is, memorable rides that we've been on, and, the experiences that we've had and the people that we've met, and, just the overall, joy and glory that we get from, the motorcycle community.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is when you're part of it, you get it.
Yeah.
When you're not part of it, you might not get it.
Definitely.
You know how many people in my life, like from family to friends, they're, oh, you ride a motorcycle? Are you trying to kill yourself?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Not even close.
I know the risks, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
I think people that love riding, they just can't help it.
Mm-mm.
There's times where I felt in my life that maybe I need to sell the bike to afford living, especially when my daughter was born. And thankfully, my friend Gary's wife was like, you're going to hate life if you do that. So don't do that. And that's when I ended up buying my Harley. So
major upgrade.
That worked out really well. I don't know if I can afford this Honda. Better buy a Harley.
Let's buy a $13,000 Harley.
I did get a good deal on this bike though. So
yeah, for sure.
Luckily. Yeah. Another thing, upgrades. My bike doesn't really have any motor upgrades. I think comfort was kind of my main. I'm not out there to like race people.
Right.
I even dialed it back. I took the baffles out for a while thinking I really liked the loud sound and it was nice. And then I realized how much I hated it. Not hated it. It just didn't sound super great.
Yeah.
It was just loud,
it's super
period.
canny.
It was just loud. It wasn't like nice mufflers and a cam that is loud, but it sounds really good. It just, so I put them baffles back in. Did I tell you that?
No.
No, yeah, I put them back.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, Gary came in. We did a ride the other day out to Tremont to a restaurant called The Grill. Super good. And he pulled in and I said, yeah, I put the baffles back in. He's like, I was wondering when you were going to do that. He hated it from the beginning because he likes being in the back, or like he wants me to ride front.
And it's loud.
And so all he hears is just like, like super duper loud.
That's the worst thing about being behind Seth is because he's got it right out
Does he have straight pipes?
He's got it right out the head pipe. I mean, he's got a...
Or are they short, like they just go straight down?
He's got a 12-inch exhaust tip, if you want to call it an exhaust tip. It's practically straight pipes.
Yeah. Well, and Gary's, his is, I don't think it's stock pipes, but it's a true dual.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have a carb, or not carb, why can't I think? Cadillac converter.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have baffles. So it's pretty loud, but it sounds like it's meant to be. You know? It's actual pipes.
Right. I think the upgrades on mine were basically the same thing, just for comfort. Because, I mean, being big people for an extended amount of time on a bike is just, I mean, you want your room to stretch out and, you want to be comfortable. You don't want to be crunched up into a ball. Yeah,
like I've got, I think they're 12-inch bars. And what do you have? Yours 10s?
I have 10s.
And then I do have slip-ons. I have Reinhardt's. And then everything else is either cosmetic or comfort.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite upgrade by far has to be when we put the removable tour pack.
Yeah.
That
same here.
Has to be my favorite. Ellie hates it when I take it off because I usually put it in the back of the car. And she's like, oh, it's in the back of the car. How annoying. But night and day difference.
Oh, yeah. People
you're
don't really realize the weight that gets lifted.
Because I think, what does a tour pack weigh? Like
Uh,
15, 20, maybe more pounds? I can't tell if it's heavy or just awkward.
It's probably just awkward, but I mean, just removing it from the scenario.
Because it's such a high center
Yeah.
of mass.
I mean, you've got so much more control over the bike than you do with it on.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, whenever it's just me and I'm not going anywhere long, tour pack's
pull it
off.
off.
It's gone.
Yep.
Because I think it looks cleaner. And that's the funny thing about that tour pack delete is I saw somebody park at Tucker Speed with, I think it was just a regular Street Glide. And it was a newer one. I think the newer one's a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Sleek, I guess. So it seems more compact than it actually is. I was like, man, I used to think these Harleys were huge, like the tour bikes. I thought they were ginormous. And then I took the tour pack off mine. I'm like, oh man, this bike doesn't seem that big either. You know, it's funny how you think that, especially as a new rider. I remember when I went from the Yamaha to the Honda, and I think it was like 150, 200 pound difference. I thought that Honda was huge. I think that one's a 1300 cc, and it's just super stretched. But then I bought the Harley, and I had the Harley and the Honda at the same time for a little bit before the Honda finally sold. And I was riding the Harley all the time. Ellie and I were taking that Harley from home to, sometimes I'd drive to work with it, and then I'd come back and I'd pick her up, and then we'd go to the hospital to see our daughter in the NICU, and then we'd ride it back. So we were riding that thing constantly. And then the person that ended up buying it lived here in Brigham and said, hey, can you swing by so I can look at the bike? Got on it, and I'm like, this thing is tiny. You know, like, I was like, man, this thing is so light. Because I don't know, let me check. Because I know the Harley tour bikes are around 8, 9.
Yeah.
Depending on who's on it and whatnot.
And how much load you got on it?
See, Honda Fury weight 662. So yeah, it's
300
like
pounds.
Yeah, it's a good at least 200 lighter than the Harley, and then the Yamaha FC09 weight 425 pounds. So yeah,
200 to 200.
I almost from my first bike to my current bike, I've almost doubled the weight. And so, especially 2-up riding.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, you got a whole other person on there, and that's a complete game changer. So that's one thing I do want to cover and have people participate in is talking about different subjects like 2-up riding. I want to reach out to the community here in Utah, whoever listens. I want to hear what people have to say. You know, that's kind of the fun part of building a community. So get people to call in, get people to send recordings. We can play it, talk about it, kind of make it flow, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of the big thing for me. But yeah, that's what I want, you know?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
There you have it. That's what we're going to do.
That's what we're going to do right there.
So hopefully we'll get some links started. We'll get some Discord, Instagram, YouTube, get it all fired up. This episode, video, not in the cards right now, getting it worked out, have audio only, get the ball rolling. That's the goal. But all the bells and whistles on their way, you know. Wanted to make sure audio was good.
Yeah. This is the trial run right here.
Yep. But we're not giving up on it. We're going to try and have kind of a rotating cast. Hopefully as it gets bigger, we can have more mics, more people all at once, and really go somewhere with this. But we're grateful that anyone who does listen participates. I think that's what makes podcasting cool, because people are willing to sit and listen to what other people have to say. And if they like it, they can become involved.
Yeah, definitely. They can definitely put in their input, and we can, that's the whole thing about it being a community is we want everybody to join in. We don't want to just, be two guys just sitting here talking to each other. There's nothing wrong with that, but
not that we couldn't do it for hours. We do it on anyways.
But it's nice to have you guys reach out to us and share your experiences and share your rides and things that you've enjoyed and things that you've upgraded on your bikes, and just be a part of it. We want you to be a part of it.
Well, we're gonna tune out for now, and we're gonna thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you.